The detention level of Fortress Kryllus hummed with the low buzz of containment fields. Lyra Vesh moved silently through the corridor, her footsteps practiced and precise. The purple hue of her skin absorbed the harsh lighting, leaving only the faintest shimmer along her angular features. "The human refuses interrogation protocols," reported Sentinel Martin, offering a salute as Lyra approached. "Vital signs remain stable despite withdrawal of nutrition supplements." Lyra nodded curtly. "Return to your post. I will assess the specimen myself." As the guard retreated, Lyra observed the cell's occupant through the energy barrier. The human male sat cross-legged on the floor, eyes closed in what appeared to be meditation. Elin Terran, according to intelligence, a diplomatic envoy whose vessel had been intercepted and contested. Space 3 cycles ago, she deactivated the barrier and entered. The human didn't move, didn't flinch. Unusual. Most species trembled before a Neveran elite. "You will provide information on coalition movements in the Doraxian sector," Lyra stated. Her voice modulated to the intimidation frequency her trainers had perfected. "Resistance prolongs your discomfort." The human opened his eyes deep blue. Like the mineral lakes of the Neveron homeworld, Anne studied her with unexpected calmness. "They've engineered even your voice to inspire fear," he said softly. "What else did they take from you when they made you?" Lyra's hand instinctively moved to her pulse blade. This was not protocol. Prisoners did not ask questions. They answered them. "Your psychological tactics are ineffective," she responded. "The Dominion has studied human manipulation patterns extensively." Leon smiled in expression completely inappropriate for an interrogation scenario. "This isn't manipulation. It's recognition." Slowly stood, keeping his hands visible. "I see Unot, the weapon they've crafted." Something fluttered in Lyra's cheston. Irregularity she would report to the medical division later. She increased her physical intimidation stance, moving closer. "You are prey, attempting to confuse a predator. It will not succeed." "We're neither predator nor prey," Elion countered. "Those are simplified roles assigned to us by those who profit from our division." His gaze remained steady, unafraid. How could he not fear her? Every aspect of her design was meant to terrify: the height, the reflexes, the strength, capable of shattering bone without effort. "Your eyes," Elion continued. "They hold something the Dominion didn't intend. Something... ... He paused, searching for words. ... Luminous." The flutter returned, stronger now. Lyra's training offered no protocol for this sensation. She stepped back, creating distance. "You will be processed according to Dominion statutes," she stated flatly, retreating toward the cell entrance. "My name is Elion," he called after her. "When you're ready to be someone beyond your programming, I'd like to know your name too." Lyra reactivated the barrier without responding. Her steps down the corridor were no longer precise. Her breathing pattern disrupted. Commander Dirac would expect her report soon, but what could she say? That the human had caused some malfunction in her conditioning? That night, in her isolation chamber, Lyra reviewed the interrogation recording. Studying the human's expressions, the cadence of his words, his eyes, so different from her species, held something her trainers had never taught her to recognize. For the first time in her existence, Lyra Vesh wondered what it might mean to be seen truly, seen as something more than a weapon. 3 cycles passed before Lyra returned to the detention level. Her official log cited continued assessment of psychological vulnerabilities, but the truth pulsed beneath her skin like a second heartbeat. She needed to understand what had happened during their first encounter. "Your nutritional intake remains minimal," she observed, scanning the monitoring data as she entered Elion's cell. "This serves no strategic purpose." Elian looked up from where he sat against the wall. Days of captivity had left shadows beneath his eyes, yet his gaze remained clear. "In my culture, fasting can be a form of meditation," he explained. "It helps clarify what matters most when everything else is stripped away." Lyra tilted her head. "An inefficient practice. Clarity comes from directive and purpose, does it?" Elian asked. "What brings you back here, if you're already so clear about your purpose?" The question struck with unexpected precision. Lyra found herself sitting on the bench opposite him, a breach of interrogation posture guidelines. You spoke of recognition, she said finally. Explain this concept. A smile touched Elian's lips. It's seeing someone beyond their surface, beyond roles or expectations. Recognizing the spirit beneath. Ivorans don't possess spirits. We have function. Even as she spoke, the words tasted hollow on her tongue. Everyone has a spirit, Elian countered, even those engineered to forget it. He leaned forward.
What's your name?
Not your designation, your name. Lyra Vesh, she answered before her training could intervene. Lyra, he repeated, the sound different in his human intonation. Beautiful, that flutter returned, spreading warmth through her chest. She should report this malfunction to medical, yet something held her back. Tell me about Earth, she asked suddenly. For the next hour, Ilian described oceans and mountains, cities and forests. He spoke of rain falling on skin and the taste of fruits grown under natural sunlight. Lyra listened, barely moving, absorbing descriptions of experiences the Dominion had never permitted her to imagine. Commander Vesh, the voice of Commander Dirac sliced through her thoughts. He stood at the cell entrance, his expression unreadable. Your presence is required for tactical assessment. Lyra rose quickly, composure snapping back into place. The subject displays unusual resistance techniques. I've been analyzing potential weaknesses. Derek's eyes narrowed. The High Command has moved the subject's execution to tomorrow's cycle. Your analysis period has ended. The news struck her with physical force. Execution. The prisoner possesses valuable intelligence. The decision is final, Dirac interrupted. The human's public termination will serve as a message to the coalition. That night, Lyra stood before the reflection panel in her quarters, studying her purple-hued features. The face looking back had always been a tool of the Dominion, perfect in design, empty of desire. Now something else gazed back at her, something with questions burning behind its eyes. Her communication panel chimed. Lyra, came Krell's voice, her battle sister since creation. Your behavior patterns show deviation. Do you require recalibration? No, Lyra answered, merely focusing on mission parameters. The human's execution will restore balance to the unit, Krell stated. Your performance metrics will normalize afterward. After disconnecting, Lyra pressed her forehead against the cold metal wall. Normalize, return. To the emptiness she had never questioned. Before meeting Ilian, return to never knowing what rain felt like on skin or what it meant to be recognized. The thought was suddenly unbearable. The night cycle of Fortress Krillis brought a hushed quiet broken only by the distant hum of defense systems. Lyra moved through shadows, her access codes opening paths where others would find only barriers. The guard rotation had been memorized, their patterns anticipated with mathematical precision. She found Elian awake, as if he'd been expecting her. They've scheduled your execution, she said without preamble. Dawn cycle. Elian absorbed this with remarkable calm. I suspected as much when Commander Dirac visited earlier. He seemed eager to share the news. Lyra's jaw tightened. You should show fear. It's the appropriate response. Would fear change anything? He smiled sadly. Besides, I'm more concerned about you right now. Me. The concept was absurd. She was not the one facing execution. Coming here is dangerous for you. Elian stood, approaching slowly. Why risk it? The question hung between them, demanding an answer Lyra wasn't sure she possessed. She had violated protocols, betrayed her training, endangered her standing all for this human who would be dead within hours. I needed to understand, she said finally. Understand what? Why your words affect me? Why I cannot return to what I was before meeting you. Her voice dropped to a whisper. It's like you activated something that was always there, but dormant. Elian stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from his skin. The Dominion can engineer bodies, even behaviors, but they can't create or destroy the capacity for connection. That's beyond their reach. Hesitantly, he raised his hand toward her face, pausing to give her time to retreat. She didn't. His fingers traced the curve of her cheek with gentleness she had never experienced. In another life, he murmured, we might have met as equals, neither prisoner nor captor. Lyra closed her eyes, allowing herself to imagine such a reality, one where she wasn't weapon. Wasn't never an elite? Wasn't bound by conditioning and command? Just Lyra, meeting just Elian. When she opened her eyes, her decision was made. "There's a ceremonial gathering before dawn," she said, voice steadying with purpose. "The entire command structure will attend before your scheduled execution. Security will be redirected. There's a maintenance access near the eastern quadrant." Elian's fingers pressed gently against her lips, stopping her. "You're talking about helping me escape? Do you understand what that means for you?" "Treason," she acknowledged. "Reclamation. Termination of function. I won't ask you to sacrifice yourself." Lyra's hand found his, their fingers intertwining, hers purple against his tanned skin, both equally warm with life. "You're not asking. I'm choosing." The door to the detention level slid open, footsteps approaching. Lyra stepped back swiftly, composure falling into place like armor. Krell appeared at the cell entrance, her gaze shifting between Lyra and the human. "You're not scheduled for interrogation duty." "Final assessment," Lyra replied smoothly, "gathering remaining intelligence before termination." Krell studied her with the penetrating focus of a fellow elite warrior. "Your bio-readings show anomalies, battle sister. I've observed changes in your patterns since this human arrived." "Your concern is noted," Lyra said, moving toward the exit. "But unnecessary." Krell blocked her path. "Is it? The human will die tomorrow, but your loyalty must endure. Remember your creation purpose, Lyra." She brushed past Krell. Lyra felt the weight of her next words. Perhaps there's purpose beyond what they created us for. Dawn approached, bringing with it both ending and beginning. In her quarters, Lyra prepared not for the ceremonial gathering, but for something no never an elite had ever attempted. Freedom. The Dominion ceremonial hall pulsed with cold light as officials and warriors gathered for the pre-execution ritual. Commander Derac stood at the center platform, his voice carrying through the chamber as he detailed the human's crimes against Neveran interests. Lyra remained at her assigned position, armor gleaming, expression neutral, the perfect image of an elite soldier. "The human terrorist will be brought forth at sunrise," Derek announced. "His death will demonstrate the consequence of coalition interference in Dominion territories." Lyra's internal chronometer counted down. She had disabled the surveillance nodes along the eastern corridor during her night patrol. The security rotation would change in precisely 12 minutes, creating a brief window where the detention level would be minimally guarded. "Commander Vesh will oversee the final interrogation," Durak continued, gesturing toward her. "Perhaps the human will offer final intelligence to ease his passage." All eyes turned to her. Lyra stepped forward, bowing with practiced precision. "The Dominion's will shall be executed." As she exited the ceremonial hall, Krell fell into step beside her. "Your bio-readings remain irregular, battle sister." "Pre-combat elevation," Lyra replied smoothly. "The human has proven unusually resistant. I anticipate challenge." Krell's eyes narrowed. "I've requested to accompany you." Lyra's steps didn't falter, though alarm flashed through her. "Unnecessary. Protocol dictates single officer final interrogation." "Protocol also dictates reporting behavioral anomalies," Krell countered, "which I have not yet done." They stopped at the junction, leading to the detention level. Years of combat training together had forged an understanding between them that went beyond words. Krell knew perhaps not everything, but enough. "The human dies regardless," Krell said quietly. "Don't destroy yourself alongside him." For a moment, Lyra saw concern in her battle sister's eyes, and emotion neither of them was supposed to possess. "We were made to follow orders without question," Lyra said. "Did you ever wonder why that was necessary? Why we needed to be engineered not to question?" Krell's expression hardened. "Because questions lead to weakness, or because questions lead to truth," Lyra countered. Their eyes held for a long moment before Krell stepped aside. "You have 20 minutes before I sound the alarm. Whatever you're planning, be swift." The gesture, small yet monumental, struck Lyra with unexpected force. "Thank you, sister." "Don't thank me," Krell replied. "I'll hunt you if ordered, and I'll find you." Lyra nodded once before continuing toward the detention level. She moved with purpose now, no longer hiding her intent. The single guard at the entrance fell unconscious from a precise strike before he could register her presence. Elian was waiting, calm, despite the circumstances. "It's time?" "Now," she confirmed, deactivating the cell barrier. "Can you run?" "Lead the way." They moved through service corridors, Lyra disabling security measures with practiced efficiency. Elian kept pace despite his weakened condition, asking no questions as she guided them. Through the labyrinthian fortress, the maintenance exit opened to Kryllus 9's harsh landscape, jagged rock formations under a perpetually twilight sky. Cold wind whipped around them as Lyra pointed toward a distant ridge. "There's an abandoned mining outpost beyond those formations," she explained. "We can secure transportation there." The alarm sounded behind them, echoing across the barren terrain. "They've discovered your absence sooner than calculated," Lyra noted, drawing her pulse weapon. "We must move faster." They navigated the treacherous landscape, Lyra occasionally supporting Elian when the rough terrain proved challenging. Behind them, searchlights swept across the rocks as pursuit organized. "You've done this before," Elian observed as Lyra guided them through a nearly invisible passage between towering stone pillars. "Never," she admitted, "but I've memorized terrain surveys during tactical planning. Knowledge meant for hunting can serve escape equally well." A pulse blast struck the rock beside them, showering them with fragments. Lyra pushed Elian down, shielding him with her body as she returned fire with precision. 3 pursuers fell back, seeking cover. "This feels backward," Elian murmured beneath her. "You protecting me." Lyra met his gaze. "Not backward. Just ... new." They continued their flight, staying low among the rocks. The mining outpost appeared on the horizon, a collection of abandoned structures, half reclaimed by the harsh environment. As they neared the outpost, a familiar figure stepped from behind a rock formation. Commander Dirac stood, blocking their path, weapon raised. "I expected better strategy from my finest warrior," he said, disappointment evident in his tone. "Throwing away perfection for this ... human?" Lyra stepped forward, positioning herself between Dirac and Elian. "Not throwing away. Choosing differently." "There is no choice for you," Dirac snarled. "You were created to serve, bred for obedience. This malfunction will be corrected once the human is eliminated."
Lyra felt Elian's hand touch her back, gentle support rather than restraint.
In that touch was everything the Dominion had tried to engineer out of her. Connection, compassion, choice. "I am more than my creation," she said, raising her weapon. The standoff stretched across seconds that felt like eternities. Derek's weapon remained trained on Lyra, his expression a mixture of anger and something resembling regret. "You are my finest achievement," he said. "Decades of genetic refinement, behavioral conditioning, perfection." "If I was perfect," Lyra replied, "I wouldn't be capable of choosing differently. Your perfection was always an illusion." Derek's finger tightened on his trigger. "The human has corrupted your programming. Once he's removed, you can be recalibrated." "My name is Elian," came the calm voice from behind her, "and I didn't corrupt anything. I simply saw what was already there." Movement flashed at the edge of Lyra's vision, a second team of pursuers approaching from the eastern ridge. Their window of escape was closing rapidly. "Last warning," Derek growled. "Stand aside or be classified as irreparably compromised." Lyra measured distances and angles with the battlefield calculations ingrained in her from creation. 3 possible scenarios presented themselves, none with favorable outcomes for both her and Elian. Protection would require sacrifice. "Lyra," Elian whispered behind her, "there's another way. Trust me." Before she could respond, Elian stepped beside her, not behind her protection, but as an equal. He raised his empty hands. "Commander," he addressed Derek directly, "you believe she's malfunctioning because she's choosing compassion over violence. But what if the true malfunction was designing beings capable of connection, then punishing them for connecting?" Derek's expression faltered momentarily. "Silence. Human." "Your psychological tactics aren't tactics," Elian interrupted. "Look at her. Really look. Is this the face of someone malfunctioning? Or someone finally functioning as a complete being? A tense silence hung between them, broken only by the approaching sounds of the second pursuit team. Lyra kept her weapon steady, calculating the precise moment intervention would become necessary. Unexpectedly, Derek lowered his weapon slightly. What did you say to her? What words could possibly undo generations of conditioning? I recognized her, Elian answered simply, as someone worthy of being seen. Something shifted in Derek's expression, a flicker of understanding, perhaps even recognition of his own. For a heartbeat, Lyra saw not her commander, but another being engineered for purpose, carrying his own invisible chains. The moment shattered as pulse fire erupted from the approaching team. Derek spun, shouting, "Hold fire!" The distraction was brief, but sufficient. Lyra grabbed Elian, pulling him toward the mining outpost as Derek's attention was divided. They raced across the open ground, pulse fire cutting through the air around them. Inside the abandoned structure, Lyra quickly located what she saw to an old transport vessel, dusty but intact. "Can you pilot this?" Elian asked as she worked to activate the ancient systems. "Theoretically," she replied, fingers dancing across controls. Basic navigation was included in tactical training. The vessel hummed to life, systems responding sluggishly after years of disuse. Outside voices approached the pursuit, closing in. "If we reach orbit, we can make for the neutral territories," Lyra explained, initiating launch sequence. "The Dominion doesn't risk diplomatic incidents by pursuing into those sectors." The transport shuddered, lifting from the ground as pursuit teams breached the outpost entrance. Through the view screen, Lyra caught a final glimpse of Commander Derek, standing apart from the others, weapon lowered at his side. Their eyes met briefly, a wordless exchange between creator and creation, captor and freed. As the vessel broke atmosphere, stars replaced the twilight sky of Kryllus 9. Elian moved to stand beside her at the control panel, his hand finding hers. "Are you all right?" he asked softly. Lyra considered the question. She had abandoned her function, betrayed her creation purpose, left behind everything familiar. By any Dominion standard, she was irreparably damaged. Yet something inside her felt more complete than ever before. "I don't know what I am now," she admitted. "Not Nevron elite, not human. Something ... between." Elian's fingers interlaced with hers. Between isn't a bad place to be. It's where new things begin. The transport vessel continued its journey away from Dominion space, carrying them toward uncertain futures. Lyra studied the unfamiliar star patterns ahead, no longer seeing them as tactical navigation points but as possibilities. "Where should we go?" she asked. Elian smiled. "Wherever we choose. That's the point of freedom. The journey becomes our own." Lyra thought of Krell, of Derek, of the life engineered for her that she was leaving behind. There would be grief for those connections. She realized another emotion she was only beginning to understand. But alongside it grew something stronger. Hope. "I want to feel rain," she said suddenly. "Real rain, on a world where things grow naturally." "Then that's where we'll go," Elian promised. As the stars streaked past the view screen, Lyra Vesh no longer weapon, no longer Tula, out herself to imagine all the sensations awaiting her. Rain on skin, wind through hair, the weight of choices made freely. And most unfamiliar yet welcome of all, the feeling of being truly seen, not for her function, but for herself. For the first time since her creation, Lyra smiled without calculation or purpose, simply because she felt like smiling. It was a small expression, but contained within it was everything the Dominion had failed to engineer out of existence. The irrepressible capacity to choose connection over isolation, compassion over duty, and love over obedience. A new life, waiting between the stars.